all of us are going to be speaking today. So I'm a physician in Colville. We started a clinic there. You'll see a couple of pictures of that in a moment. And following me is Teresa Lang. Teresa is our director for the Rest Stop. She's going to talk about the power and significance of relationships and why that's so important. And then next is Richard Smith. Richard is our on-site manager for our Bridges project. And Richard's going to talk to us about the power and significance of housing and how that changes lives. And then next is Shelley Bacon. I'm married to her for 45 years, working on 50. Yeah. And Shelley is the CEO for our private project. It's separate from the nonprofit. It's called Hope Street Restoration, and that's hiring homeless folks to learn life skills and to earn some money. And she's going to talk about the power and significance of jobs and how that changes lives. And then finally, Shiloh Reynolds, who's our director for our men's recovery house called Bridges of Hope. And he's going to talk to us about the power and significance of recovery and recovery housing. Okay? So that's an overview of where we're going with this thing. Here's some rumors that you may have heard. When you step into a life like this, you get beat up from a lot of different directions that you didn't see coming. So these are some of the rumors about us. So none of these are true, but we want you to know them so that you can say, no, that's not true, if you ever hear it, okay? So that we own Barman's, we own Cahoots, we received a $20 million gift or grant from Catholic Charities. We own the Rowena Apartments and we're responsible for the increase in rent there. We bought Habitat House, or the big building there on Main Street in Colville. We bought the Presbyterian Church, and we're moving homeless folks and immigrants into Colville, and we're creating a 72-unit apartment. None of those are true. You can wipe those from your mind, okay? But we've been accused of all of those. Here's the truth that you may not have heard. We created a membership-based primary care clinic and urgent care, and the reason for that is because we see the injustice in the healthcare system. People can't get in to see their doctor. It's impossible. Healthcare has become unaffordable. So people make dreadful decisions about their health when their kids get sick. Do I go in? Do I not go in? Do I go in and get a test done? What do I do? So we said, this isn't fair. So out of that sense of injustice, we said, let's create a clinic where people who don't have insurance or have a high deductible healthcare plan can come in and get care at an affordable price. And we also have an urgent care clinic that's all kind of rolled into that same clinic. And again, the reason is because people can't get in to see their doctor. We did not know that that was going to be a powerhouse for the rest of the work. We didn't anticipate that. We did it for those other reasons, that sense of injustice in our clinic, in our community. But it turns out that that's the powerhouse, the financial powerhouse, because it's doing well. And so a chance to give back to the community and provide financial support for the rest of the work that you're going to hear about here in a few minutes. We have a nonprofit that we've called Hope Street Project. We also have a for-profit venture, and that's Hope Street Restoration. That's Shelley's project. We have a bike hostel where people that are traveling across the country can stay overnight, take a shower, relax, and be on their way. And so we've had hundreds of people stay in our bike hostel, and they all put their pin up on a map, and they tell their story to us when we get a chance, and it's really fun. Just an unexpected kindness. That's all it is. We have a peace initiative in northern Kenya. We're developing a medical school in Ethiopia, and we're creating Bridges of Hope Recovery House that you'll hear about in a moment. So why do we do it? Compassion. That's why. We see the way people are suffering in our community. I think that some of my international experiences helped me to see things and open my eyes to suffering in my own backyard. And I think that that's partly what drives that, seeing the world and seeing my own community with different eyes. And because there are health disparities that are happening in my backyard. Here's a couple of numbers. I think numbers speak loudly to me. They tell stories. 27 years. That's the difference in life expectancy if you are housed versus chronically homeless. 27 years. There's nothing else like that unless you live in a war zone. There's a 27-year difference in life expectancy. That's what the most recent studies are saying. 2 years. That's the average time it takes to get housing in Stevens County, even if you've got a voucher in your hands. That's how long it takes. That's the housing crisis that we're in our region. 90% buy-in. A recent article in one of the Seattle papers says that if you offer housing to people that are living out on the streets or living in a camp, if you offer them housing, 90% will take it. That may be different than what you've heard, because there are older studies that say, well, we offered them shelter. Well, what's shelter? Shelter means that you're separated from the rest of your family or the rest of your support team at a time when you're most vulnerable. Women have to go here, men have to go here, right? And so but housing is different. When you offer people housing with the support that they need, they're more likely to buy in, and they're emptying out some of the camps on the west side of the state by following this method. They're targeting certain camps and saying, let's empty that out. 90% buy-in, and a year later, there's 70% of people are still in housing. All right? And the other reason is for life transformation. That's why we do what we do, a chance to change people's lives. Here's some of the work that we do internationally. This is teaching newborn resuscitation in a place in Western Ethiopia. This is a peace initiative that we started in northern Kenya. Cool thing about this is that I'm going back this month later and visiting some of our leaders there. Our leader's name is Samuel Lemaris. He's a nurse. And we also have a teacher. She's not in this picture, but she's also one of our leadership team. And this side of the conflict wanted to work on orphan support. The other side of the conflict, two different tribes that were fighting out there in the desert in northern Kenya, wanted to work on education for their kids. There's a little shelter for orphans on one side of the equation, the Turkanas, and there's a little house out in the middle of the desert where 70 kids are in school now that would not be in school otherwise. And on weekends, I said, I want you to use it for worship. So every Sabbath morning, there are 50 people who worship there who were not worshiping before. Is that wild? That's part of our story. We get to celebrate those lives. There, two of the orphans that have graduated from high school. One of them is graduating from nursing school this December. She was faithfully supported by my former nurse, who was my nurse for 24-ish years in Colville, Terry Taylor. She continued to support that project, and now this girl is graduating from nursing school, and she says, I want to give back to my community. I want to go back, and I want to be part of the Peace Initiative. So we're going to start a clinic, by God's grace, out there in the desert among her enemies. And she's going to reach across and provide medical care for the people that she might consider to be her enemies. She's going to be part of our Peace Initiative. Another girl is going to teacher school, and a guy from the other side, from the Pocots, is going to seminary. He says, I want to be a pastor to my people. Is that crazy? Like, we did not see that coming, right? But that's the life that God is calling us to. Here's teaching newborn resuscitation in Angola. This is the biblical foundation for this work. You heard Ron read it just a little bit ago, John chapter 7. Whoever believes in me, as the scripture says, streams of living water will flow from within him. He was speaking of the Spirit. When you open your life to the leading and the power of the Holy Spirit, it is a transformed life. It is a life not like any others. And once you step into that and you taste it, you cannot go back. You say, I want more of that. I want to believe that. And you look at the team that I have up here, that's the life that they have stepped into. This is from a book called Ministry of Healing. The Savior mingled with men as one who desired their good. He showed his sympathy for them, ministered to the needs, won their confidence, then he bade them follow me. You're going to hear the story of how that plays out in our local community. The folks that are part of our leadership team are doing all of these things. They're mingling with people. They come alongside them. They genuinely love them. They serve them. They ask them, what can we work on today? You'll hear that story. You'll hear stories of transformation. They show sympathy to them. It's not this kind of charity. You know what I'm saying? It's not like that. It's like coming alongside folks, loving them genuinely, having compassion for their suffering, and saying, how can we help you today? Seeing, what is it in my backyard that is causing premature death and suffering? I can tell you what it is. It's poverty, homelessness, untreated addiction, and untreated mental illness. That's what's driving deaths prematurely in my community. All right? Then we win that, because you'll hear the importance and power of relationship, winning their confidence. And then the next step is to follow Christ. All right. So no apologies for that kind of life. Can't do it. Here's the components: Hope Street Project, Bridges of Hope, Hope Street Restoration, Heartland Medicine. They're all part of that same continuum. That's our clinic. There's a house that Shelley, that was project number 1. She's probably going to show you some other stories here in a minute, but that's what it looked like before. Does that look like it might need some help? Yeah. It's almost like a parable of the men's lives and the women's lives that she works with. It's kind of cool because they get to see this transformation. Here's some of the guys that worked on it, and there's what it looked like at the end. Yeah. It's cool, right? Yeah. So Shelley's going to show you some other stories. There's project number 2 and 3. She turned that into a duplex. And then this is project number 4 inside. And that's project number 5. She'll show you some updated pictures of that. All right. So what's creating homelessness? Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff. You could just about pick something out of a hat and you could realize it's very complex. Lack of housing, sale of housing, poverty, loss of jobs, mental illness or physical illness, addiction, fleeing violence, natural disaster, family dissolution, all of the above and more. Here's one thing that's creating homelessness. This was in Santa Rosa, California, 2018. My daughter lives there. She's a family doctor down there. And so she called me and said, "Dad, do you know what's happening down here in Santa Rosa?" I said, "I have no idea." She said, "There's a fire. The front of the fire is moving at 45 miles an hour. Jumped across 6 lanes of traffic and kept going right up the hill. 150 physicians lost their homes in this fire. They were evacuating 2 of the 3 hospitals and moving everybody to the 3rd hospital in the middle of the night. Doctors on motorcycles and whatever they could find were moving babies and moms in labor and people from the ICU over to the 3rd hospital. They were looking up on the hills and watching their homes burn. That was their commitment. What do you think happened to rental prices the next day? Selfishness and greed. That's what's driving this thing, right? It's what we do to ourselves, to each other. So, how can we come alongside people in compassion? Part of it is this rest stop. It's the first place that people go. You're going to hear about that from Teresa. And then we build housing, miniature homes and campers and whatever, tents, whatever we can do to try to cobble together some kind of shelter for people so their lives are better. We're embarrassed that we can't do more, but we only have what we have. Here's a tiny home that somebody said, "Hey, we decided we're moving on with our lives down to Arizona. We don't have any need for this. Do you want to buy it?" I said, "I don't have any money." He said, "Well, what if I donate?" I said, "I can afford that." And so we moved it onto this lot in town, and we finished it off. And around Christmas time of 2020, a mother and her teenage daughter moved into that house. We get to celebrate their lives. She comes over and volunteers. She has for a long time because she wants to give back. She realizes the value of having housing for herself and her daughter. That was the inside part. And that's another place a couple doors down that we spiffed up and refurbished. It was originally human housing, and then it turned into just kind of a storage shed. So we resuscitated that and turned it back into housing. This is going to be for women. It's called Patrick's Place. It's named after our son who died while he was incarcerated in 2020. So we named it after him, but it's going to be for women in recovery. So that's a duplex. We're going to house up to 4 women in recovery. We have some property, 7 acres there in Colville that we dream of transforming into housing for people so that they have someplace permanent. Meantime, one of our board members is working on temporary shelter. That's one of the places that he's using kind of some innovative processes and materials, recycled materials to kind of build just like small shelters. People don't need a lot. They need a roof over their head. They need a door that locks, a place to stay warm and out of the weather. And their life changes. Here's some folks that have donated things. Our community has surrounded us with support, and they've come up and said, "How can we help? We believe in what you're doing. Let us help you." And so people will do that. They've donated vehicles and stuff and tents and clothes and all kinds of things, mattresses for the recovery housing. And then some people don't want their faces to be shown because they're afraid of the fallout that can come from the community. That's how cruel we are to each other. Right? Yeah, social media. Here's a place that was gifted to us. The lady who owned that had a nonprofit. The nonprofit had kind of aged out, But she saw the work that Shelley was doing next door, and she said, I want to gift this to you. She said, I can't do that because I'm not a nonprofit. But my husband has a nonprofit, and she said, I want to gift it to you. So we went inside this building, and we said, my goodness, what could we do with this? And we dreamed. Like, it opened so many doors. And so that's going to be Bridges of Hope. We're in the process of restoring that so it can be used for men in recovery. Then we had this happen. When you host a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed. The words of Jesus, right? So some young person in my church said, hey, we want to have a feast for homeless people. Where could we do it? And the church kind of said, I'm not sure. We don't have enough time. Not going to work. I heard it, and I said, I got a place. That big, funny-looking green place, we can do it there. They said, okay. I said, you bring the food, we'll set up the chairs, and that's what the feast looked like. Yeah. It's cool, huh? Yeah. And here's a gift. One of our community members made quilts for everybody, and so we were able to give those out. Yeah, isn't that fun? The way forward, there's a lot of stuff that we want to do. There's a bunch of stuff we did. We have a whole bunch of goals, and that's what we plan to do, and this is how you can help. Okay. That's probably enough. So I want to give Teresa some time. Teresa, why don't you take over and tell us why relationships matter? Yeah.
So my name is Teresa, and I'm the director of Hope Street Rest Stop. I'm also a recovering addict. I've been clean and sober for 21 years. By the grace of God. So the importance of relationships, I'm going to go kind of back to when I started at the rest stop. So I'll tell you a little bit about the rest stop. Men and women come into the rest stop that are homeless, but not only homeless. They come in there, they can take showers, they can do their laundry, and it's kind of a wraparound services for any service that you need to, say, driver's license, EBT card, counseling, anything that you can think of in your life that you need to move forward or just to be and live. So I usually refer them out into the community, and then if they can't get them, I have them come back to me, and I'll find another way for them to get into a resource for help. So I work a lot with people that are in active addiction. A lot of people are actively in mental health that are either due to trauma, addiction, loss of housing. It's messy. I can tell you, I've been in all those situations in my life. I mean, I became homeless during COVID, and I was working at an agency and as a peer counselor. I have 4 kids. I was homeless with 2 of them in a car. It can happen at any time. My addiction was long, but my recovery has been longer. It has taken a long time, yes. I have had every kind of trauma that you can possibly think of happen in my life. Do I wear it on my body anymore? No, I get to share that story. I get to be open. I have no shame. I can impact people with that. But not only that, we all have a story. All of us out here have something that we hold, that we hide, that we can't trust to tell, that we're ashamed of or afraid of. Either it's judgment or we're scared. So what I do, and this is my favorite part of my job, is that my healing process, it took me 13 years of therapy and God. 13 years of hardcore therapy in hospitals and rehab. But I got there. And so every day when somebody walks in, I think of, where I was in that. I put myself in their shoes. Sometimes I'm the teacher. Sometimes I'm the student. Every day is a school day for me, for sure. But I build a relationship by, sometimes it's just sitting down and listening to somebody talk about a music or something they found dumpster diving, or how much they miss their parents, or how much they want to work or they can't find work because they don't have housing, but they have a job and they're living in their car, and or they just want to sit in silence, or I'll take them to a meeting or sit on the sidewalk with them, or sat in their tent in the dirt with them, or whatever it takes. So listening, I've told these guys, like, I can see any one of my guys walking on the street, and I'm like, I know by their shoes, I know their pants, I know what their favorite food is, I know what they're allergic to, I know what it looks like when they're sick mentally, when they're sick physically. But the thing is taking time and listening, and it's through connection of, I listen with not wanting to respond back. I listen with intention, but they need to be heard. We need to be heard. We need to be heard. We need to know that we're valued and that we have worth. And I love every one of those guys. Like, they were my brother, they're my dad, my friend, and I tell them that. I tell them that I care about them and that I love them, and they need to know that. And that's all I got.
How y'all doing? My name is Richard Smith. I'm the on-site manager at Bridges of Hope, which should be open by January, hopefully. I got a story of a miracle that happened, and only God in heaven could have been there to do this. I came to Carville from the western side of Washington State. I had been there for like 3 years. I had been living in my car, but I'd been working, right? I had been working, but housing was so hard. I had one roommate during the time I had been working, but they couldn't pay the rent, so I wound up getting kicked out because I couldn't contribute they couldn't contribute they have, so I wound up losing housing. So I had been living in my truck. I came to Carville actually to give up, to walk. I was gonna leave. Actually, I came to Carville to go to Carville National Park to walk off. I was going to give my truck away, and I was going to leave and just live off the land and just live in the woods, because I had been betrayed by family members, friends. A lot of stuff had happened to where, not just family and friends. During the time I was homeless, living places in my truck, working, people didn't want me there. A lot of business come out. I don't want you. You can't sleep here. You can't sleep. I wasn't doing nothing wrong, just trying to get a little sleep so I can get up and go to work the next day. Save some money so I can probably get a place. But every place I went to park my truck, you can't be here. You can't do this. You can't. Even in front of people's houses, they don't come out. Call the police on that. Somebody, strange person in front of my house. So I just decided, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with society. I'm done with it all. I'm tired. I'm working hard, and I'm still living in a truck, but I'm working hard. I'm getting enough money, but I don't have enough money for housing. So I wound up meeting Barry Bacon one night when I came to Carville. I was in my truck, and I went to a place where you can shower. It's called a warming center. It closed down now, but it's going to reopen here in winter. And I heard somebody say, I got out of the shower, and I heard somebody say, Bible study. Immediately, what? I need that. Because I had been alone. I had been away from people. I had isolated myself. I ain't gonna say like people. I didn't trust nobody. That's what it was. I had no trust for nobody. So if it wasn't just on a business level, thank you for your service, whatever, I wouldn't deal with nobody. So I had been alone. So when I heard services, so I said, hey, I need this fellowship. I need this. This is what I need. So I went to the service. We talked. I liked it, the people I was around, because I had asked God a long time to send me some people, because I had given up. So I said, God, if you still got some people that's genuinely unconditional, loving people, show me to them. Because this was it for me. I was finna walk off and don't come back. He sent me him, then her, then her. So he was helping me. I was helping him build stuff at a place. So one day I woke up, I thought I was the healthiest person in the world. Now, mind you, I had no trust for nobody, even doctors, until I met him, really. One day I woke up to go volunteer with her at the rest stop. I thought I was the healthiest person in the world. I'm 55 years old. I thought I was healthy. I woke up, had a really bad pain in my chest this morning. Never had this in my life. So as I backed up, I went down on one knee. And I had a roommate. He walked up and he's like, man, you okay? And I'm like, no, I think something wrong. I need you to call the ambulance. So he called them. They came, hooked me up to the EKG thing. They said, you having a heart attack. Rushed me from there to the emergency room. Now, God put these people in place this morning, because I would have died. If these people wasn't in place, I would have left this earth. My roommate called 911. After he called 911, he called her, Teresa. She, in turn, called them two. Now, this happened at 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock, about 7:30 in the morning. So they rushed me to the emergency room. She was by my side the whole time. They said, now, while I'm there, I'm having these pains, strange pains, outside of my chest. Now, my leg went numb. It went numb. Well, it started from my toes and it went up rapidly, fast. So by the time Dr. Barry and his wife got there, it was here. I couldn't feel nothing. I had to move my leg like this. This is how I was moving my legs. My chest had stopped hurting because they gave me a nitroglycerin. So it stopped hurting. So it went into my leg now. So everybody running around in the emergency room because don't nobody really know what's going on. So I look over, I see Barry and his wife standing. And it was that image I'll never forget, because it reminded me of my family, of my mom and my dad. That's the energy they gave me. For me, yes, for me to have given up on everything and for him to send them. So I kept saying, man, my leg is hurting. My leg is hurting up here. Barry, what's wrong? What, is this normal? So he didn't really know. He just watching me intently, watching everything. So he asked one of the doctors or the nurse, can I go check on him? So he walked over to me. He said, can you stand up? I said, yeah. So I stood up. He got behind me. He put one hand like this, the other hand on my ankles, on the inside of my ankles. So he didn't tell me. He just said, I'll be right back. Lay down. So as he left out and came back, I noticed everybody started moving supersonically fast. Everybody, after whatever he told them. Get him here, get him a CAT scan, get him here, get him here. The last thing I remember a lady saying, you ever been on a helicopter? I said, no. She said, it's gonna be fun. But she was tricking me. I didn't know they was sedating me to take me to emergency surgery. They had to cut me open. I had an aortic dissection. I had something 100 times worse than a heart attack. My main vessel in my heart ripped. It started ripping. So that's what stopped the circulation in my leg. Had he not been there, I would have passed away. Because didn't nobody not taking nothing from the staff, but they just didn't know what was going on with me. They were just like, okay, you got a heart attack and we're gonna take care of it. But actually it was something much worse. So when he told them, hey, this is what it is, I woke up 6 hours later, tubes everywhere in Spokane. She was right there with me, holding my hand the whole time. I didn't know that. I didn't know she had made it there. I didn't know. Next day I work, he was there. I'm saying that to say, all that I asked for from God, he gave it to me. Amen. I wouldn't have been here. This wasn't my plan. This wasn't my plan. So now I'm going to give until I die. Amen. I will give and volunteer until I die because of what he gave me, this family, a new family, what I asked for. Everything I asked for, he gave me. Only through his will can we do these things. Without housing, and when I came home, and this was the big key, I hadn't been living in my truck. Now, they cut me open from here to here. I got a scar for the rest of my life. I couldn't sleep in no truck. I couldn't get out. I could barely get out of the bed. I could barely sit down by myself or stand up for the first month. This happened in March. March 15th this happened. Had I been in my truck, I would have probably died coming out of the hospital because I couldn't heal. While I was in the hospital, now y'all seen that big green house? It was a brown house next door. If you've seen it, you probably couldn't see much of it. While I was in the hospital recovering, he got some volunteers, the students, and everybody to fix the house up for me to come home and heal in. Because without housing, you can't heal. You cannot heal. So what you see right now is a miracle. My life wasn't the life. God dictated my life. What I thought was good for me wasn't. And he did it in a drastic way, but I got a hard head. I'm not gonna lie. So now I hear and I trust. This is my family right now. This is my family. So my message to y'all is housing is really health. Without housing, and I see a lot of people dying every day that's homeless in Carville, walking and dying, basically dying. Because they on the line. They barely, they out in this cold. Now it's going to be cold. Housing is health. This is the thing that we need to fix. I mean, I know a lot of people think, these people need to get a job, and it's not that easy. It's harder than that, just to tell somebody, go get a job. Because a lot of these people don't got ID, Social Security card. A lot of these people have been homeless for years and don't know how to get back into society like that. They need help. And just praise God, man, and stay vigilant, and when you can help, any kind of way, talking, you can pull up and just talk to somebody, and that can help them. That can probably save them from killing themselves. That's probably all they needed, was to hear a voice, a calm, soothing voice. How you doing today? You all right? Need a cup of coffee? You need something? And that could save somebody's life. You don't have to have all this money and all this. They changed my life, man. But by the grace of God. That's it. Thank y'all. Thank you.
Sorry, that's kind of, I didn't know Barry had it. I didn't know Barry had a PowerPoint until we were on the way here. I said, I got stuff to add to that. So I had to do a screenshot of our website on the way over. So Hope Street Restoration, and notice the tagline, Restoring Homes and Lives. And that's, this idea was thought of, the rest stop had been in existence for a couple years, I think. And Barry overheard some officials in town calling the rest stop Scrub a Bum. He felt that was disrespectful. So he said, Shelley, let's start a business and let's employ homeless people. Well, you have to have money come in to do that because the money's going to go out. So he said, let's flip houses and I'm going to make you the CEO. So that's how that started. How many of you, by the way, remember your first job? Okay. How many of you have ever been unemployed when you wanted to be employed? Have any of that happened to anybody? Okay. What's one of the first things that you ask someone when you meet them? What do you do? And it's just kind of part of our psyche. We sometimes say, where are you from? But it's used often, one of the very first questions is, what do you do? Well, what if you have been homeless and without a job for weeks, days, months, years? How do those questions, either one of them, work for you? Where are you from? What do you do? And how many of you, and this is okay for you to raise your hand because mine would be raised too, have said before, well, they just need to get a job, or thought it? Be honest. Mine's raised because I said the same thing. And I don't know that I necessarily said it with disdain, but it's just like, well, come on, they just need to get a job. There's so many jobs. I've seen it on Facebook all the time. They just need to get a job. I had no idea, personally, how hard that would be for them to just get a job. Richard mentioned some of the things: no ID, no transportation. They don't have a place to sleep at night, so they're not rested for the next day. How many of you feel good when you have to go to work the next day and you didn't sleep well the night before, or the night before that, or the month before, or the year before? You're not getting adequate sleep because you're not safe. You're not warm. You're not dry. You don't have a roof over your head or a door to lock. Many, many things, and your mental health is affected by all of that. How do we work real well when our mental health isn't so good? It doesn't work so well. So these are the kinds of things that I like to try to bring awareness to as I talk to people about the just get a job idea. So then we started Hope Street Restoration, and I thought, and naively enough, we're going to work 4 10-hour days. I wanted Friday off, so I cleaned my house, and I had a Friday night dinner for 18 years or so, and been inviting people, and we have now coming. A couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we had 19 people coming. Last night we had 13. And we have a few people that are church members. We have a few people that are housed, and the rest of them are either unhoused now or have been unhoused. And it is awesome. And we just fellowship. We're all the same. We give them value. We give them worth. The things that Teresa was saying are just what we try to do. They are God's children, the same as you and me. Doesn't matter if they haven't showered for 3 days. Doesn't matter if they don't know which fork to use or knife to use or whatever. None of that makes a difference. They have equality around my table, and it's a really wonderful thing. And when they come to my work site, they have value, whether they know how to read a tape measure or they're a former carpenter. Almost every single person I have employed, I think only one exception, is a recovering addict. And almost every single person, again, only one exception, has been incarcerated. I don't even have that question on my application. Do you have a record? It's not even on there. We take them as they are, and we train them, and we love them, we give them dignity, and they respond. Do they learn skills really quickly? Not necessarily. Do they leave all trained and ready to go to another job? Not necessarily. Do they go back to drugs? Sometimes. And then they have to quit working for me because you have to be clean and sober and homeless. Now, if you get a place to live and you're working for me, I'm not going to fire you, but you have to be homeless in order to start working for us. And that can be couch surfing, that can be staying with relatives, that can be staying in the back of somebody's trailer, that can be a tent, that can be in a car, that could be in the bushes, and I've had all of those scenarios working for me. I have people that drive up, some of them have cars, many of them do not, so you need to go pick them up. Can you pick me up today? Somebody paid for a hotel. I'm over here. I'm at the homeless camp. I'm at wherever. So it's a very complex thing. Many, probably more than half of the people I've employed are involved in something called drug court, where they are required to go to classes and to one-on-one appointments and to get UAs, urinary analysis, all these things they have to do. How does that work out with a full-time schedule? Not so well. So just get a job. Well, you go to the employer and say, well, I can't work Tuesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon or Friday, and I have to go every other Thursday at such a... Who's going to give you a job around that? So I didn't know that at the beginning. The first couple guys I had didn't have those issues, and so we're just working 40 hours a week or more and doing our thing. And that first house you saw, that's what we were doing. And then more and more of them became part of, or that I hired were part of drug court. When I need somebody, I go to Teresa, say, who's ready to work? Who's clean and sober, and you think they're mentally ready to go to work? Because not every single person is yet. So you just kind of have to figure that out. So here's 3 of my newest employees. Just hired these guys a couple weeks ago. We now have half of our workforce is women. And they work just as hard. They're trying to restore these stairs. It's a real pain. And Jen over there on the right, I'll tell you a story about her in a minute. Anyway, the gentleman in the front and the lady, they both live at the crisis house right now. And the lady was living in her car until just recently. She just got to the crisis house, so she's got a little bit of time there to find housing. She wants to get her kids back. Her mom has her kids right now. The stories just tear you up, you know. Sometimes you go home, you just feel like, yeah, I'm really happy because I can do this, but man, and I think I have problems. You know, I work with these people every day, and they come to work ready to go. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they've struggled, you know. Anyway, so here's one of them learning how to put some ceiling on the floor to Osmo hard wax oil. And this guy's worked for me for a year, and he's been to rehab. He's headed off to rehab again this next week, and he's been to rehab one other time beforehand. So that means he messed up. It means he has to take time off. And then this drug court decides whether he goes to rehab or not. That's not my decision. But he has learned so much. He had no drive, no passion, no goals. How many of you remember someone asking you when you're a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay, where are you going to go to school? No one ever asked him that. Because I asked him one time, well, what did you tell people when you were growing up, when they asked you what you want to be? And he said, no one ever asked me. That was a wow moment for me. Anyway, Michael has really learned some amazing things. He can lay flooring, he can do sheetrock, he can do ducting, he can, pardon me? Insulation. There's lots of things he's learned to do, blowing insulation, all kinds of stuff. And I just hired this young lady, she's probably not quite so young, but anyway, she's a really hard worker. She's been a friend of Teresa's since high school. And she came to her and she said, I want a job that I have accountability for. Every job I've been able to be at so far up to now, just part-time little jobs here and there, I could do it when I was high. I want one where I can't be high. You know, and so she calls me, Shelley, can you employ her? And I said, yeah, sure. Well, give her a chance. She is a great worker. She learns really quickly. She problem solves. She got her first check, and she came back after cashing it, and she said, can I give you a hug? And I said, well, sure. She gave me a hug, and I just kind of wondered, and she said, well, I went to cash my check, and they asked me, do you have a job? And for the first time, I was able to say, yes, I have a job. And she's recently said, you know, maybe my brother will talk to me now. He hasn't been talking to me forever because he knows I'm really smart, but I just haven't ever had a real job. And now I do, you know. So maybe he'll, and she says, you know, I've always had these other jobs. And I got to thinking, why don't I try one sober? So, duh. and, you know, you and I, if you haven't struggled with that, you might think, well, yeah, that's a no-brainer. But if that's been your life, you've struggled and struggled. She lost a child, as we did, but she lost a child to drug addiction. It just tears me apart because I know what that feels. That wasn't why we lost a kid, but still, we lost a kid. We know that pain. Anyway, so that's Jen. And there's another guy on the right that I've hired. He's with his kids right now. And then Michael in the middle. And then a volunteer. Talk a little bit about volunteers. People, we welcome volunteers because this is not a money-making proposition for us. It's going the other direction, but we're there to hire the guys. Here's another guy. He lives at the shelter, and he comes and volunteers now and again. He was doing some walkway work for us. These guys are part of the Kettle Falls Rotary, and they've decided that they really want to support us, so they've come twice now to volunteer. And here's a guy that was helping pull up carpet just last week. Another volunteer. Here's a no. That's Barry. One of the days. And here's him another day putting up our address sign there. And somebody from across the street took a picture of me. Most of the pictures don't have me in it because I'm the one behind the camera. I'm doing something on the deck there. So what we get to do is we get to take places like this and turn them into places like this. We get to restore homes, but the point of it is to restore lives. And the guys, we don't do this to make Seventh-day Adventist Christians out of them. There are no strings attached. But we love them for Jesus' sake. They see that, they feel that, and sometimes they come to church. I was just watching our live stream a little bit, and there's one of the guys sitting there in church. A couple of them come, probably 4 or 5 of them that have come, because they see something that they want. And I believe that is the way we preach. Preach the gospel only. Preach the gospel always. When necessary, use words.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shiloh Reynolds. I've been clean and sober for 9 years. Thank you. I served in the U.S. Army for 11 years. Combat veteran. I work for Barry now as the director of Bridges of Hope Men's Recovery House. Before that, I worked for Spokane County for almost 4 years as a case manager, managing high-risk people that were justice involved, oftentimes with mental illness and substance abuse issues. We were the most successful program in Spokane County. So what is recovery housing? Does anybody know? All right. Okay. Excuse me. I'm getting over a cold. I have 2 small children that chronically keep me sick. Yeah. Recovering house is a place where after you've went through maybe an inpatient treatment program, maybe you have had an alcohol problem, so you did 30 days in a sober detox facility, or maybe you just left a chemical dependency rehab. It's a place you go now that instead of going back to the streets with no support, where you probably will relapse or reoffend, it's a safe place where, you know how like Jesus had the 12 disciples, right? And he led them and they learned from Jesus and he taught them how to live. That's what we do. We take men that probably came from a broken home, traumatized deeply. They may not have finished high school. They may not know how to balance a checkbook. They may not even know who God is. And it's like a finishing school kind of. We teach them how to be whole again. Because this journey is holistic. It's not just, if I treat your mental illness or I treat your substance abuse problem and I cut you loose onto the streets without a place to go, the odds and the studies say you will relapse and you will not break that chain. But if I can put you in a safe environment, like a recovery house, and support you and put people in your life that will teach you and mentor you and show you the way to live a sober life, a clean and healthy life, a healthy life that isn't eating out of a bag from McDonald's every day, how to prepare meals maybe. These things matter. The studies show that the men that have this offered to them and can undergo a year of this are overwhelmingly successful. It's not an easy journey. Men that will be coming to us will have come through some very hard circumstances, like what Richard's experienced, what Teresa's experienced, what I've experienced. We all have stories. We've all have traumas. And some of these things we never deal with until way later in our life after we've messed everything up. A lot of people think that the men that come to our recovery house or the men that we see on the streets or the people we see suffering deserve it. It's their fault. They're choosing to be sick, or maybe they're choosing homelessness, and maybe some do. We know that some do, right? But not all. Some just have never had a chance. Somebody's never had someone introduce them to God or what the power of Jesus could bring to you, or transformation or change, and a lot of that's what a lot of these men are experiencing. They're just out there alone and they're hurt, and they just want somebody to help them. Somebody to take one moment to say, "Hey, how are you? You need anything?" And so that's what Bridges of Hope Recovery House will be. It'll be a place where we can bring those men. It's faith-based. We're holistic. You're not just there for chemical dependency. You're not there just to maybe draw benefits and not be working on yourself. We want to take those men and kind of polish them, teach them how to be whole, healthy men, and productive members of society. We're going to teach them, maybe they've never had a job interview. Maybe they don't even know what a resume is, right? So we're going to be teaching them those skills. And maybe they don't know how to measure a tape measure or a saw. Like, these are all skills that I don't have, but everyone out here might have that. You might be a nurse or a contractor or a carpenter or computer programmer. You can help us, right? So you have things to offer the men in our home. Every one of you is a master at something. God has given you a gift, something that you're good at, right? And one of the greatest gifts you can give someone else is to teach them that gift, right? I have a place for y'all, and I don't care what your gift is. If you want to share it, I can find somebody that wants to learn it. I promise you. And that's really what we're here today. We're trying to spread the message of what we're doing, what our plans are, where we're going, because it is a community effort. These men and that will be staying with us and the people that go to Hope Street, they need a community. They're lost for the most part. That's what we're offering. We're giving them a chance at redemption, a chance to rebuild their lives. And who doesn't like that? Who doesn't want to help someone? I think we've all seen the power of God. We've all seen the transformative effects of it when you share it to someone who's never heard it, someone that's never read a Bible verse, someone that doesn't know the beauty of the Bible or Proverbs or iron sharpens iron, right? And that's where you guys come in. Y'all are the community that can help us support this, who can come and teach our men, who maybe all you can do is donate. We'll take it. I'll take anything you have. Materials, time, space, please. That's what I ask for. And remember that there are human beings out there. Not everyone's choosing to be homeless or to be an addict or to be mentally ill. I didn't choose it as much as I gave up. But a VA hospital, someone came in one day after my 5th attempt at sobriety, and they shared the word of God with me. And all of a sudden it mattered. I mattered. I wasn't so broken no more that I couldn't come back to society and be a part of it. I never expected any of this. That was not the journey. That was not the plan. I came to Washington State 5 years ago with 2 little boys fleeing a crime-ridden city. We were witnesses to several murders. I'm not testifying in a murder trial in Memphis for no reason. If you can help it, you don't want to do that. And I had no plan. I came here literally with no plan, except the federal government gave me a vet preference. It didn't work out. I went to work for New Alliance. And when I went to work at New Alliance, Dr. Nielsen said, after a few conversations, there's a man in town you need to find. I said, who is it? He goes, his name's Dr. Bacon. I said, why? Do you think I'm sick? And he's like, no, but you and Dr. Bacon are on the same wavelength. I think that together you could do beautiful things. And I said, thank you, I'll find him. And it took a little while, but I found him, right? And here we are. And when we talked about this recovery house 6 months ago, there was a grant. I've never wrote a grant in my life. But we needed this grant to open the house. We needed this grant to give me a job, Richard a job. I had zero faith this was going to happen, I'll be honest. The whole time I'm going, this ain't going to work. Please, God, let it work, but it ain't going to work. And the strangest thing happened, and what I'm seeing through God and the love and power of God in Christ, is that when you ask, that need can be met if your heart is pure. We got the grant. We're continuing to get funding from the strangest places. People will help each other. And that's what I've learned, and that's something that's very powerful that maybe a lot of you already know, right? But I didn't know that. I didn't know that you just have to knock on the door and ask, and people will come out and help you, and that's new to me. I can't say a lot about the rumors that they haven't already said or about the other missions that we do. Please help us. If you have skills, again, I won't beat that to death. If you have skills, if you have free time, you're retired, you're sitting around the house, you don't have nothing to do, please let me know, man. You probably have something that you could teach one of my men, or maybe you can help us, right? Like, we're rehabbing the building. We need a little help, right? Can you hold a paintbrush? Can you pick up garbage? I got 2 little boys. Let's teach them something, right? It's a powerful thing to help other people. It's a powerful thing to have this community that you all have right here with love and God involved. That is a truly beautiful thing. And that's what we're trying to give to our people. And that's why we're here humbly asking for any support. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. You can find us on most of the social media now. Our website's almost live. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you for your time. Thanks for having us here. Thanks for bringing us here. Thank you for listening to us. That's another big deal. Thanks for letting us all talk and listen to our nervous selves talk out here. And thank you for your time and everything else.
You may see a group of broken people up here sitting in front of you. But I look at our team and I see something beautiful. Amen. You know what I'm saying? You can see why I love these people. Like, they inspire me. So thanks, guys, for coming and being part of this. Really appreciate it.